तामड़तोड़ कर रहेगी।
Hello and welcome. As India and Pakistan are at loggerheads, and the developments every passing minute, every passing hour is making a headline. It is imperative, it is important to note what India is doing and what are the repercussions and why India is taking those steps. Obviously, it is harming Pakistan and ways in ways more than just one. And many would say that war is a solution. Many would say that an attack is a solution. But before that, the diplomatic offensive that India has started is also something that is hitting Pakistan where it hurts the most. To decode the matters, to understand the impact, the long-term impact of the steps taken by India, today we are joined by Mr. Atul Aneja. He is a foreign and strategic affairs expert and also a senior journalist. Mr. Aneja, thank you so much for taking time out from One India.
You're welcome, Pankaj.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Aneja, first things first, the much talked about suspension of the Indus Water Treaty. It's not just a punitive measure, but a signal of a new strategic posture, not in within India and Pakistan, but also in South Asian region. How do you see this? How big a step do you consider this?
I think it's a very big step, Pankaj, and a step which is going to have very long-term implications. Obviously, the Indus Waters Treaty is exceptionally important to India, but given the reliance of Pakistan on it, I think it's more important to Pakistan than to India because 80% of the waters of the six rivers of the Indus Basin, three of them are moved to in the direction are for providing waters to Pakistan, and three, which is Ravi, Satluj, and Beas, are for India. So on the Pakistan side, you have the Indus, you have the Jhelum, and the Chenab, and but if you see the water flows, you find that around 80% of the Indus waters, India gets about 41 billion cubic meters per annum, and contrast that by 99 billion cubic meters to Pakistan. So obviously, Pakistan's reliance is much more on the Indus waters. Its agriculture is very, very dependent on these waters. I would say about 61% of Pakistan's population depends on the Indus waters. The electricity, for example, the Tarbela Dam, Mangala Dam, which is to provide power, it comes from here. So it's critically dependent. Pakistan is critically dependent on these waters, and so that's taken by India of putting the Indus Waters Treaty in abeyance. I think that's very important.
Right.
That you're not abrogating, you're not walking away from the treaty, but you're suspending the treaty, right? Because of circumstances which are not in the spirit of the Indus Waters Treaty when it was negotiated before 1960s. So that's why the step is potentially very, very important.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Aneja. And given the fact that it is pinching Pakistan right from the announcement, and they are terming it as an act of war, this tells the gravity of the situation and the importance of the whole Indus waters. Talking about these actions militarily and diplomatically, do you see global powers, especially the West, finally reassessing their engagement with this, if I may say, terror exporting Pakistan?
Well, it's not that the West has realized it first time. I mean, I remember as a journalist with the Hindu, I covered the Kargil War in 1999, and there was a very strong intervention by the Americans at that time.
Yes, please.
To stop that war, and I think their intervention went a long way. a significant way to see the withdrawal of Pakistan-backed forces or Pakistani troops themselves from the region. So it's not that they're not aware of the terror element into it, but I think partly why the rest of the world looks at this region when tensions flare is because both India and Pakistan are nuclear weapon powers. And nobody wants a war between nuclear weapon powers because, that's off the table, a nuclear war. So that's why the amount of attention to any flare up of tensions between India and Pakistan because of the nuclear dimension attracts the West and the rest of the world very, very deeply. Apart from that is also the fact of the Modi administration in India, which has a reputation of taking forceful actions. You saw what happened in the Balakot airstrike. You saw surgical structures, cross-border strikes. And that adds another element to it, Pankaj, of why the world is very, very concerned. I wouldn't say even the West. The Russian President Vladimir Putin has come in very strongly against the terror attack.
Right.
In fact, even the Chinese have condemned it. So, it's sort of 360 degrees when it comes to condemnation of this act. India has grown, Pankaj, from what it used to be. I'm talking 1999.
No doubt.
And thereafter, it's after the G20 summit, it's sort of playing on the global sort of playing field now. And therefore stature has risen much more. The economy has grown. We are now more than $4 trillion economy. The potential is huge. India is a major pivot in a multipolar world. It's a major pivot in the global system. And I'm not surprised because the attention this has drawn from the world community.
Absolutely, not just the West, and as you rightly mentioned, Russia, even the Gulf countries, where Prime Minister was in Saudi Arabia when this happened, and lo and behold, all the adjoining countries also have expressed solidarity. Talking about this,
just coming back to that, the Gulf countries is important. I think all of them have condemned unequally, unequally, and even countries like Jordan and Kuwait, and they're all very, very clear on which side of the fence they are. I think that's very significant. But I think there's one more significant element, if I may add. I think the Kashmiris themselves is something of a game changer to me. Because I have covered Hazrat Bal 93 and otherwise, and the situations were very, very different at that time. I mean, it used to be as if the entire hillside is ablaze. There would be these videos from mosques blaring in the night. The anti-India sentiment is so strong. And today, what's happened after the Pahalgam incident is that Kashmiris in India come out openly against terrorism, and I think this is a fantastic change, a very, very, very profound change which has taken place, Pankaj. Apart from the international opinion, I think once you can start a local movement against terror in Kashmir, I think that is a huge game changer. And frankly, Pakistan has lost the plot over here. I don't think they expected such a reaction coming from Kashmiris themselves.
All right, absolutely. And our correspondent there on the ground in Pahalgam has sent us those visuals, and for the benefit of our viewers, we will be playing it on this show as well, where the business houses, the small traders are actually coming together. They are giving slogans, Hindustan Hamara Hai, Atankiyon Wapas Jao. So this, you're right. I mean, if since you have mentioned it, and I think in retrospect, then I think in my 20 years of career in TV, haven't seen that, sir.
No, it isn't. It's unprecedented. And I think this is one big takeaway from otherwise a very tragic story. But if there's a pivotal shift in the valley, then this terror game is over. And I can well imagine that, we are on the threshold of Kashmir getting integrated with the rest of the country, with the tunnels coming up. You have the Zojila tunnel coming up. You have two others coming in. Ladakh is getting connected. Trains are going to start. We see the Chenab Bridge already there. So the integration of Kashmir with the rest of India is going to be a game changer. And frankly, once that happens, Pankaj, then I'm not sure how people in POK are going to react. What dynamics over there, if you see Kashmir developing and prospering, I
Then
think then probably we don't need to send our forces to do the job.
people themselves would.
It can't just. I mean, anything can happen in
Mm,
that part, that geography. In terms of the anti-Pakistan sentiments, which are already there, we know semblance of that coming up. But
mhm,
I think with the valley integrating fully with India, the sentiment is. I'm certain that the pro-India sentiment is going to come over there. And frankly, Pakistan has lost the plot here.
mhm,
You're losing this Kashmir battle of hearts and minds. It's already, you can see it, what's happening in the valley. I
mhm,
suspect this is spread further. And then, Pankaj, if
mhm,
you have this new tide developing in favor of India,
mhm.
how are those seeking independence in from Pakistan, let's say in Balochistan or in Sindh, going to react? I think there's a
Right.
full new dynamic which has started with
Right.
this incident of Pahalgam. And I would suspect this is going to unroll for a long time, and there are various dimensions are going to get added to this. And
Mhm.
my hunch is we are on the cusp of a very, very fundamental change in South Asia and specifically in
Right.
Kashmir.
Obviously, with the significant steps like Indus Water Treaty from the Pakistani side, that they might be revoking or already have revoked the Shimla Agreement. Good for them. And other than the visa bans, Attari checkpost has been closed. So all these things definitely are hinting towards a major shift, uh, a policy shift, I would say, not just within India and Pakistan, but also in the South Asian region. So one final question, Mr. Aneja, I was hoping to ask you. Um, the concept and the issue of Hindus being targeted. As a journalist, when you and I look at it, then obviously it's the eyewitnesses account that matters the most. And all of them have mentioned that this was the barbaric act which was carried out after checking the faith, the religion of the victims. How do you see this? What does this tell about
There
the
is no
mentality?
doubt that the Hindus were targeted. It's been
Mm,
happening, it's happening in Bangladesh, it's happening here itself. It's a very deliberate ploy to do that. But I
mhm,
think there's a trap here as well, because if you, from a national angle, you look at it in a religious angle, your anger gets directed in terms of a religious divide. Then I think we will be losing the plot,
mhm,
because
mhm.
what the perpetrators want is a much deeper divide, communal divide between Indias, and that
We should
is
not
the
fall for that.
we should not fall, because that is a recipe for big social divides, and even from their perspective, a breakup of India. So we have to stop this temptation from looking at it, though recognizing that this is a fact. Hindus need protection. I am not saying that, but it is a national issue. I don't think we should fall into any act or thought which can create divisions within India, because that we need unity at this time of all patriotic forces of any faith,
Mhm.
and not a communal divide, which is what these terrorists want to
Wonderful.
drive in.
Absolutely. Mr. Ninja, in the same breath, you mentioned, the Kashmir of 90s, the Charare-Sharif incident, and um, much akin to what was the situation there, that when the loudspeakers would say, go back, leave the land, or stay here or die. Obviously, Kashmir cannot afford and cannot go back to that time. And do you believe that the steps that the government is taking as of now, in all due interest of the situation, is there something that needs to be done more, or something that needs to be emphasized there?
You see, I can't really comment so much into it, because the government has inputs which I don't have.
Sure.
But I think a graduated response, a strong, firm, but not a knee-jerk response, and that is what we need, because you ought to have a strategy as to what is the end game you want. Is it just a counter-terror game, or are there deeper
Long
objectives?
term.
That is something which will define your actions now and for the foreseeable future. What is the strategic objective when we look at Pakistan? That's the key. incremental steps, it depends on the situation. Frankly, to be honest, Pankaj, if we talked about Indus Waters Treaty, but Indus Waters Treaty right now, we cannot block the waters. There is no dam here to block the waters, right? All when it's in abeyance, what we can do is, of course, the quota which is to be available to India, that we need to sort of get the entire quota. Earlier we were not, we were giving part of that to Pakistan. So that's one. We have the option of carrying forward the hydroelectric projects on the western rivers, which are allowed under the Indus Rivers Treaty, provided there are no dams made to block the waters. Runoff the flow of rivers, that you can build hydroelectric projects like the Kishan Ganga is being done and a couple of others. So, you get the options of that during the abeyance period. But if things go south, you can graduate, but it's a long-term option, to be honest. Now, if you were to really, a situation arises when you squeeze Pakistan and put pressure, that is actually from the naval side. I mean, it seems to be drastic right now, but
military.
One thing which will pinch without going in for an all-out war, we talk about the nuclear dimension, but suppose there were to be a blockade of Karachi, entire lifeline, export-import gets impacted. Could that be an option, or would that be an extreme option? That's the government has to consider. But there are a range of options, Pankaj, which are available. And I think we should look at our goals. The idea is to eliminate terrorism permanently. And what's the best way to do that? And what is the strategic goal? I think this is what will define the concrete tactical steps which the government is bound to take. To be honest, I don't see India reacting forcefully to such a huge provocation. It should not in any way. It can't be 2008 kind of situation when we had the Mumbai attacks and we did nothing. I mean, this is also, and I think that phase is over now. Now the question is that what steps are taken have to promote India's core national interest, and whether it looks spectacular, whether it's long term, whether it is covert. I mean, that's a thing which the government, with all the inputs that only the government has to decide.
Absolutely, Mr. Aneja. Thank you so much for actually speaking to One India, sharing your thoughts and insights there. And the whole world is watching what is transpiring between India and Pakistan. And yes, once and for all, this terror headache must go away, because Kashmir, in its full glory and bloom, should not be depriving its own residents of the time that they cherished for, that they wanted for, the chosen democratically elected government there. And now suddenly this dastardly act is committed. Thank you so much, Mr. Aneja, for speaking to One India. We'll be in touch.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Subscribe to One India and never miss an update.